Well, you did say very easy to respec. There is one thing I'm curious how you guys feel about this. Respecing is seemingly generally easier, but ascendancy is now a permanent choice.
Yeah.
Which in my interview tomorrow with Jonathan, that is definitely something I'm going to push back a little bit on. I'm very against it. Because it's a choice you make very early. So to make a permanent choice that early, I think is very rough.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would agree too. That's right.
I don't know how. I mean, I guess I hope they don't introduce a currency for it, but I hope you could like run it again, and every time you go to ascend, you can do something to respec your point. I don't know. They might have a philosophy for why they don't want to do that. So I'll be interested to hear his answer tomorrow when you ask him. But yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to hear.
I think that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of changes just across the board from that whole like 2-hour unveil that they had, that because it's launching into early access, they're going to be able to be like, all right, that was a mistake. We're going to change it to do this. We really like this. We're going to change everything else to kind of work like that. But it's a pretty big shakeup, I think, for everything. And most of it is good. There's still a lot of things where I'm just like, I don't know what that's going to do. I don't know how that's going to work, but sure. Let's just see what happens.
So I had a question a bit ago, and I wanted to ask this about this. You said that you were happy that content creators, for the most part, aren't getting like any early looks or early access and stuff like that. And I'm curious as to why that is.
That's a great question. I do feel like
do this a lot.
Creators to some degree have ruined gaming. Like, there's been benefits too, but like I loved that like era when I was growing up, and there wasn't guides everywhere, right? There wasn't like a full walkthrough for every game, or there were literal helplines if you got stuck, right? You'd have to call in and be like, "Hey, can you like walk me through this part of the game? I'm really stuck," or you'd have to talk to your friends. And I think content creators to some degree have removed that, but also, as a content creator, part of the reason why I'm happy is it creates such a different dynamic for me with my audience, with whether I'm seeing something for the first time and I get to genuinely have that like, oh my god, I just got one hit, or like I just a smackdown, or seeing like a really cool thing for the first time, versus going in with like the, oh, wait till you guys see the next zone. It's so cool, it's so beautiful. You guys are going to see something really special. Like, that's such a different vibe for me. And it also, I think, it, at least for some players, creates like a little bit of discontent with the content creators are above regular players. They get to see things earlier and be more of a special part of things. I really, it's part of why I'm against like pay to win in gaming too. I really like that in gaming, we're gamers. We're equally as gamers. And I really like that.
Yeah, I echo what you said. It also doesn't happen all that often that a game, like a new game comes out and it's not figured out a week before release. And so the best possible, this is probably the best possible chance to have that. Because I remember like even, you know, we're all playing, a lot of people are playing WoW Classic right now because of the hardcore stuff. But that was the only time that WoW wasn't solved. Because after that, every expansion, Wowhead or Thoughtbot or I forget the other website now, but they would data mine it. And so like everything when that expansion came out was already known. And it completely, Alakazam, that was one of them.
I was using Alakazam for the first EverQuest expansion for that stuff.
MMO Champion, that's the one that I was thinking of, visualizing in my mind. All that stuff was like, it was all out there. And so hopefully we can make it till Friday and like none of that stuff is leaked.
Because like it gets solved so fast anyway. And it's so cool to have something spread like wildfire. Like, you guys need to see this build. And like everybody's thinking like, have you seen this? Or like, you guys need to see this new unique item. So back in the day of Path of Exile, it's so long ago that I'm like 95% sure this is what happened. But like before there was data mining, they would have like added 7 new unique items to the game. And we would have to find them. We didn't know what it was beforehand. Now they just released like, we're adding these 7 new unique items to the game and we can see them before they come out.
Yeah.
But then it would be like, is this a new item? And people are like, no, it's an old item. And they're like, oh. So I don't know. It's the feeling of discovery is like the most fun about gaming for me. So
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I would like the way you're talking about it reminded me of that weird Destiny expansion, Destiny 2 expansion. I don't know if it was how many years ago, months ago, whatever. But like the community came together and it was just a huge puzzle, and everybody was like sharing notes, and shit like that, and how like excited the people in Destiny got about it. So I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, there's definitely like a buzz and excitement level that can only happen once, and if all that stuff is leaked, like Ziz, you mentioned the D4 launch. Most recently it was the D4 expansion, right? Like, the week prior, there were videos that was like, this is the best guide for Spiritborn, and this is the strongest build, and Spiritborns are X% better than every other class, and like they were right. Like I think they ended up saying that 60% of 60% of classes for the most recent D4 season were Spirit born. So like, it's the new expansion class. So yeah, that's going to factor into it. But those guides definitely permeate the player base, and it matters at the end of the day. And also that's a lot of what like Ziz's content is too. So that's by design, right? Like Ziz makes so many build videos every single PoE league, and so many people follow him because that's kind of the business that we're in. So now the videos are going to be like, hey, I just found this thing. Is it good? I don't know. We're going to find out. It's going to be really fun.
I'm very excited for that.
And it won't just be like, it won't be the tip top players finding stuff. It'll be everyone in the community. You're going to be checking, Reddit or Twitter, and people are going to be finding like a new unique or even new currency. Like we have no idea what any of that is at this point.
I think that's also why I like being one of the people to speak up against it too, because I'm one of the people that benefit from it the most.
Yeah. So it carries a little bit more weight.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So is there like you talked about data mining? Is that just the way it's always going to be now? Like data mining is not something you can avoid.
Well, it is. Data mining can
encryption.
absolutely be avoided. Yeah, exactly. And you can also not preload, which is another option. So there's lots of ways to avoid it if companies want to.
Okay.
And PoE may be one of those companies. It all depends on how this preload stuff is done. But also it's important to mention that sometimes, Microsoft may screw up or other parties may prevent it from happening. And it only takes one messing up for the whole thing to fall apart, unfortunately.
Yeah. And maybe that's...
that was my concern. Like you can put all the safeguards in the world, but one malicious person or just a dumb shit like can ruin it for everybody.
And also, to put it bluntly, we also now know that there's a lot of copies out there in the wild right now. And granted, they are in a previous version. We can tell from the screenshots if you look at the flasks and stuff. But it's still, there's absolutely information out there that could be put out, in the right circumstances. So, that's another decision they had to make and deal with.
Yeah. And that's a great jumping off point to talk about, preload, no preload, blah, blah, blah. Ziz, how do you personally think servers are going to hold up on Friday? Is it going to be an absolute mess? Is it going to be fine? Have they learned from so many Path of Exile expansion launches? Or does it not matter because there's so many people now?
It's a coin toss. Like, they have really, really smooth PoE 1 launches now. They haven't had a bad launch for... When was Ultimatum? The last time there was a bad launch was not even server related. Yeah, it's like three or 4 years. And the last time that happened, that was actually not server related. They had like forgotten to transfer characters to standard, and it clogged something up, right? So server wise, they've done a really good job lately. Hopefully they're able to continue with that. I am expecting for every game I ever play, unless it's something super niche with like less than 30,000 people, I'm expecting that everything will go completely wrong at launch. Now, like every PoE 1 launch, I'm expecting it to be smooth, right? And that's been fine for the last few years. They've done so well at the PoE 1 launches. So like there is a chance that things go well.
No.
I'm not expecting that at all.
See, now I'm on camp hopeful.
I love you guys' optimism. There's absolutely no chance in hell. There's no chance in hell this is going to go well. This is one of the most like people have not been playing PoE 1 for years.
That's true.
Waiting for PoE 2. And not only that, but not only is the player base hyped, the people that like Path of Exile are hyped. But there are people that have never played PoE 1 that are insanely excited for PoE 2 just because of how much more friendly it looks. It's going to be a huge cluster. And not only that, they've already announced that they had to push it back because they had database issues. So we're talking about all those database issues getting like more people than they've ever been able to stress test on them with the login servers, like with oh my God, no, it's going to be a mess. I'm calling it now. And I am not here on December 6th. I'm out of town until the 9th. I am hoping when I get back on the 9th, I will be able to play.
You shut your whore mouth. It's going to work.
No, he's hoping he'll be able to play by then.
No. He's hoping.
I'm hoping
the servers will be down the first 3 days.
No. None of us can play till he gets back. That's what he's trying to say.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did you listen to me before you said that?
I know your true intentions, Ko, you wizard.
No, I did a deep inhale when Ko was like, I hope that when I get back, I'm like,
no. I am hopeful when I get back on the 9th and I play at 8 a.m. that I will be able to log in and play. I am not expecting to. I am expecting to get back on Monday the 9th at 8 a.m. and not be able to log into the servers.
I will be
so happy if I can. I will. I'll be thrilled if I can.
To be fair, for me,
go ahead.
I'm going. No,
I was just gonna say, I know it's not the same thing, but like Netflix couldn't handle their shit when their like servers were tested. Do you think I don't know if there's a way. Like, can you
the silver lining here? The silver lining here is GGG has done big releases every 3 months. If there is a company that could potentially do this right, they've essentially had a mini MMO release every season, where it's like you get this huge influx of users on your servers, and a week later it's a fraction, and 2 weeks later it's a pittance. So, and they've done this 4 times a year for years. So even though I am still convinced it is going to be a giant cluster, there are few companies that are as well positioned as they are to potentially handle this properly. So that is one tick in their like potentially okay column. For sure.
I agree with that. And personally, I'm more forgiving of server issues than anything else, because if it was easy, nearly every company ever would mess it up, right? Like I feel like whenever we're close to like 500K plus players or 200K plus players, nearly every company messes it up, and it's probably not because it's easy and they don't want to do it.
Well, and the thing is like when you have that many clients going there's so, imagine you're looking at basically a wall of gears, of hundreds and hundreds of gears. And every single one of those gears needs to function perfectly or the entire machine breaks. And that is essentially every MMO release. It's never the same issue. It's never the same issue that happens between these releases. They're all failing for a variety of reasons. So it's literally like a house of cards they're building. And then they just throw 50,000 people at it and hope it doesn't crumble.
And hopefully the $30 entry fee will help the servers a little bit there. But at launch, it's going to be free. So that could be...
That was one thing I saw a couple people in chat. I'm curious if you can expand on it all. Is someone said that like Steam ran out of early access keys?
So what can happen is that companies purchase on a certain amount of keys from Steam and then they have to prepare them. So I don't know if they're limiting the keys, but Steam running out of keys happens somewhat frequently. That's more of a like, we want you to prepare this many. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've done like sponsored streams where we've run out of keys during the stream. Like that does happen. Yes.
I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't use Steam.
They have to request them. There's not just an endless amount of keys. They have to petition Steam and be like, we want these copies, we want these keys, and then Steam has to deliver them. So sometimes they just don't request enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've not heard of any situation where they can't request more though.
Right.
So that might be new. Most of the time they just have,
people in chat are saying, I bought one an hour ago and it was fine. So
so I'm guessing it was probably just a request thing.
Yeah. Jonathan, I think, did say that he was a little bit like he's done a ton of interviews. I know Ziz, you're interviewing him tomorrow, where he's kind of nervous by how many copies they've sold of early access already. I think it was like top 10 on Steam and has been since all of it went live. So
I'm gonna check what it is right now.
it might be 7th or around there is what people and folks were saying. It was
Fourth?
top. It was top 3 at one point.
This is United Kingdom, and then it's top 4.
Okay. Yeah, so that's
just
also
remember,
a little worrying when
not only is it
Jonathan's
top selling,
surprised.
but there are tens of thousands of people who don't need to buy that are also going to be playing. So it's like and those are the ones that you can pretty much guarantee are going to be playing it.
Yeah.
So there's even more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have a standalone client too. Not everybody's gonna play on Steam. So
Also
That's true too. Yep.
Yeah. And
Every time you say that, he just cringes a little more over it. GGG.
well,
You're
it's
right.
also launching on consoles, right? So it's like a multi-platform all at the same time.
Yep.
Which is kind of rare for them. They usually stagger the console release by a week or so.
You said you could pay the money up front, and then when after that does it go free?
They're expecting
really
a
know.
6-month EA minimum, but they said they will release it when it's ready. So the EA, it's what I've been saying to make sure it's super clear, because this is for some reason caused some contention. So Path of Exile 2 EA is not a free product. PoE 2 retail will be free to play. PoE 2 EA is not free to play. It is a $30 product. Or you can have $480 of cosmetics in PoE 1, in which case they give you a key. But people calling PoE EA free to play is weird, and they shouldn't be doing that. Like the EA is a buy-in. So
now it is worth mentioning as well, when you buy the $30 key, it does come with 300 points, and you can use those points to buy stash tabs and stuff like that. And any stash tabs and cosmetics you have in PoE 1 gets transferred over to PoE 2 as long as it is applicable.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And stash tabs is inventory, right?
Stash tabs are. Go ahead, Ziz.
Yeah, it's like you have like a stash, like you have your character inventory, which is like what you're picking up and putting in your actual character, and then you have your stash, which is like you can expand on that and organize and have like one tab for like armors, one for weapons, for different currencies and stuff like that, and you can like make that larger.
Yeah, and not to praise them too much, but like it's fucking awesome that they're allowing that transfer, because they totally had no reason to do that. And a lot of other companies would be like, no, this is a different game. You have to buy new MTX in this different game. And they're allowing all of it to transfer over for free. Like if you bought it in PoE 1, you're going to have it in PoE 2, which is crazy. Like that's honestly crazy.
So stash tabs are one of the ways they make money then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Stash tabs, MTX.
A good way to think about it is if you're going to play Path of Exile 1 or 2 for any period of time, you're going to want stash tabs. But a good way to think about it is if you've played enough for it to matter, you've probably already gotten the value for how much they're going to cost you. And by the time you buy stash tabs, you're invested, and you will get probably a crazier value for those stash tabs if you continue to play than any other purchase in gaming that you've done. Like it doesn't cost much. You can get pretty much everything you need for 20 during a sale, and you're done. Like that's all you need to buy. And then you are finished. And then you can play hundreds to thousands of hours and not need a single other thing. Maybe a new stash tab if a new league comes out or something that, is but they're a few bucks a piece. So it's one of those very worth it things.
If you ask most Path of Exile players, whenever I ask my chat this, most seem to agree that like they overspend on cosmetics just to look cool because they feel like treated so well by GGD, right? In this day and age, we don't by most companies, right? You almost get like bullied into buying things in a lot of games, and you don't really feel like that with JGD. So it stands out a lot.
Yeah. I would be very interested to see their like, God damn it. Is it KPI? What's the industry term for like how happy your community sentiment, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of that game compared to every other game? Because I bet you it's incredibly high by comparison. With something like Blizzard or something like League of Legends or Riot or anyone. Like I don't know of any other company that has people that are willing to spend that much money and like are okay with it.
From an outside standpoint, I would say that the players and players of Path of Exile and the players of Warframe are probably like talking to them are the most happiest consistently overall. Maybe a little bit of Final Fantasy is in there as well. Final Fantasy 14.
True.
Sure. Yeah. I think
I agree
I
with
didn't
that.
think about Warframe, but that's definitely true. That's another great community.
It's a pretty big overlap
Great
there
company.
with PoE players in Warframe.
Yes. Yeah. Also true. Yeah. So we'll see how all that stuff goes. They I think Co was saying, or maybe Ziz was, they did delay the release of this by 2 weeks because that transfer from PoE 1 to PoE 2 was not going as planned. So
and super cool of them to be so transparent about all that. Like,
Yeah.
I've really appreciated them, all their transparency during the development process.
Yep.
Been awesome.
It's been so nice watching like their Q&As and their interviews. It's so different from when I see other companies do those. Because it feels very natural and it doesn't seem like pre-scripted and stuff. And like whenever I have done interviews and stuff, in the start I would be like, is there anything I can ask? And they're like, no, at worst we'll say like we don't have an answer or skip, but like, yeah, ask whatever you want, which is great.
Yeah. Anytime we had Chris on the show, he was the same way. We haven't had Jonathan on before, but he was always like, yeah, ask whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
Speaking of which, we're gonna ask Jonathan.
I want to get Jonathan on afterwards.
Yeah, man.
He is. That's one thing that is.
He's not really busy right now, is he?
Well, that's what blows my mind. Is Ziz like has him on a show tomorrow and they launch
That's
on
wild.
Friday, and he's like, yeah, I'll come on and talk to
That's
Ziz
freaking
for
cool.
3 hours and answer all these bullshit questions. You know, I don't have anything going on. Like, I'm not busy. And he'll probably be doing that till, I think he was on like a show this morning or this afternoon. Like he's been doing podcasts nonstop. Granted, you know, that does win a ton of sentiment with the community and it's, you know, getting the game out there. They've done a lot of press. I saw they did it was a decently long video with now, I guess, former Sony employee Shu playing PoE 2 on controller on the PlayStation. And that video was fascinating because Shu has played a little bit of PoE, at least what he said in the video, and they were just like playing on PlayStation, showing kind of how the local co-op or the couch co-op thing worked and how they had to build basically 3 versions of the game with like the PC UI, the console UI, and then the 2-player console UI and 2-player PC UI, which is wild to see function because you can both have your inventory open at the same time. You can both have your passive skills open at the same time and manipulate all that on screen. It was crazy. That'll be huge. This is honestly like, that's a question I have for you is, are you going to play solo or are you going to play with Steel when you're leveling up for the first time?
So for launch, we'll be playing solo.
Okay.
Right? I definitely do plan to do couch co-op stuff. And one thing I have already been talking about that I want to do, I'm on an esports team called Shopify Rebellion, and I was like throwing around the idea of, well, why don't we do a couch co-op event where we fly everybody out to LA, fly out like 15 to 30 streamers, and we do a couch co-op event.
Yeah.
And they were like, that sounds so fun, let's do that.
Yeah, you can do like pros with Pros and Joe's tournament, right? You get you and Ludwig,
even just
or
raffle
you and
people.
random people, yeah, or have a draft for it. There's tons of content for sure.
Yeah.
Even, you know, for me, Gassy Mexican, my neighbor and or streamer, has never played PoE before. And I'm like, dude, download it on Friday. We'll start off and I'll like help you learn the game for the first time because the co-op actually looks genuinely impressive and not, I wouldn't say it's an annoyance in PoE 1, but it looks vastly different. Yeah, it looks vastly different than PoE 1.
I think that the speed of PoE 2 really lends to people being able to more comfortably play together, which looks to be very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was talking to a few Destiny streamers at the LA event, so like total, by the way, I've played slightly less than 6 hours of PoE 2.
Okay.
So it was 4 hours at the LA event, and then 3 40-minute demos. The first one was at ExileCon 1, and it was a completely different game.
Yeah.
So and PoE 2, PoE in general is a really bad game for 40-minute demos, right? So the only one I like really got to play was the 40-minute one. because in the 40-minute demos, it like auto picked your skill tree and stuff. So I was like, I'm not really getting anything out of this. But the Destiny players, they had said they had struggled hard with PoE 1, but found PoE 2 a lot more accessible because it's sort of like limited choice. Like without clicking the like unlock all gems button, it only shows you like 3 skill gems. Instead, where in PoE 1, they're like, yeah, you can, from this vendor, you can buy like 119 skill gems. Have fun. So it should be more streamlined for new players.
Yeah. And I think, wasn't Jonathan on record saying that they do plan to add some sort of like in-game build tool? So you're not like doing a PoE builder and another monitor or another window, like it's all in one client. I think that'll be massive whenever that gets implemented.
Dude, wait. So
Can't remember if they confirmed that. I think they're only gonna do pathing for the tree.
Okay, it's only gonna be pathing. Gotcha.
One of the things that I remember talking about way back in the day is how amazing it would be if you could load path of building builds into PoE and then just see them on your passive tree. But I was told many times that PoE has said specifically they were never going to do anything like that.
For at least PoE 1. I think they're chat's saying they're entertaining the idea. I think I remember reading something where Jonathan said like they're looking into it. It already exists in PoE 1. Yeah, it exists in the PoE 1 Chinese client, I think. Or like a version of it, and always had.
Strange.
So
and it did in an early access version for the Bowl of Oriath early access.
Oh, it did. They had it. Okay.
Now for the lay person like myself who doesn't like, what I heard was like, is it like deck like copying a magic deck and putting it into your arena, like uploading it like that? Like
Not
a
really,
build, like taking a build and going, this is the build.
It would,
and then you can fill it in as you go.
I think what they were talking about was like having like a template that would like overlay to like show like here are the nodes you would have selected.
Yeah.
Oh, Pompey Hammer says, Jonathan did confirm they are looking at having it so you can import a passive tree guide to follow, but it will not show items, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It won't be like a planner like Path of Building. It'll just say like, these are the nodes that you've suggested that you should take.
Yeah. That alone, I think, would
that'll be huge.
Help player retention.
Like it's not going
so
to,
much.
It's not going to say like you will do 6 million damage at the end game.
Right. Just like following a line through that passive tree would eliminate the player retention bouncing off in Act 1, especially given all of the comments, and people are labeling them as reviews, but there have been a lot of, let's say, comments about PoE 2 saying it's very hard. There's a lot of like Dark Souls, Elden Ring comparisons in terms of difficulty from the people that have already played it, alongside other like grandiose statements. It's like the best ARPG ever made.
It's the Elden Ring of ARPGs.
Yeah, there's a ton of hype right now around the game. So take that stuff, carefully. But people are excited.
I'm very, very curious because I played at the LA event, and I'm hoping maybe that it's a little bit easier than that, because that was exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
So obviously at the LA event, we had some of the best players in Path of Exile, and watching like people like Ben, like Shane die, and like listening to like Al Kaiser talk about it, like he almost sounds like a victim, right? He's like, you guys aren't ready. You guys don't know. Like you guys don't know. So I'm definitely I think it will be like a bit easier and a bit tuned down from that. Because if it is that hard for like the veterans, then new players are probably just gonna have a really
we're gonna get obliterated. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Completely obliterated.
We at the event we actually saw several press people leave because it was too hard, and they got hard stuck on the boss because you can't corpse rush them. It starts over.
Right.
They just left. They were like, it's too hard. So I do think it'll be tuned down from that. But it'll be really interesting, I think. And, I think it'll be pretty refreshing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Big same.
There's a content creator that actually put out a video a couple days ago, and I'm blanking who it was, but I think he was talking about the LA event where like he started as a mercenary and got to the first boss and was like, this is a fucking nightmare. And then he rolled Sork and found a staff that had like +4 lightning skills or something on it. and he just walked into the boss and like 5-shot him.
Yeah, it's subtractive.
Subtract him. Okay,
So-
yeah.
So it could just be massive balancing issues and not even difficulty.
Yeah, it's also, I remember I had a similar thing where like I didn't find an upgrade, but then on my other character I did, and it is very night and day. And from what they've said, right, that's something they've changed a lot from the LA event. Didn't find a single currency, I think. And now they've said like you're going to find multiple exalts and multiple, like a lot of currency. You're going to be crafting a lot.
That's good.
So
They said like
that'll
you would
give
be
so much more
finding.
power.
Where did they say like you'd be finding like multiple exalts per few maps? Like when asked like how much? Yeah, it's gonna be like the new chaos orb pretty much from the sounds of it.
Yeah. So they're very different crafting now. So I'm not too worried.
Per act. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and also for the LA event, we were in a rush, right? Like we wanted to see like how much of the content can we explore.
Mhm.
So we were going slightly under leveled or on level. And like normally, right, if things are too hard in Path of Exile, well, do the zone over once. You'll gain so much power.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, this is all stuff where we don't know, and that's why I think everyone's generally so excited.
It's so exciting.
'cause-
I'm so hyped for that.
Yeah, we don't know how it's gonna go. And the other thing is, we don't even know if we're gonna play. Like,
Sure.
it may hit Friday. I messaged I'm lucky enough to do a sponsorship for it, and I messaged them and it's like, so what happens if I can't log in?
You and about 50 other streamers right now. Yeah. What do you want us to do?
How does that work? What are we supposed to do
Yeah,
for that?
I can't remember what game did it. It might have been New World with Amazon, but I remember a company had that the 2 hours sponsored was specifically spent playing the game to cover stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was quite smart.
Yeah.
So it's like you can say yes at your own risk, but like you're sponsored to play the game for 2 hours, not sit in a queue.
Yeah. My only request and hope, and honestly pray is like, please don't do a streamer queue again. Don't do that.
Oh, they learned it. No, they learned their
Yeah.
lesson. They tried a streamer queue and they turned it off like soon.
It
So
was
I don't
bad.
think they would never do that again.
It was
that
bad.
was
It was real.
Yeah.
Why is it bad?
Too bad.
Why
It
was it
still
bad?
has
it's
Okay,
bad for two
so-
reasons. Oh, go ahead, Ziz. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what happened is
Here,
that
I'll
they
be right
had
back real
forgotten to transfer existing characters from the current leagues, like the ones that recur every 3 months. They had forgotten to transfer those to the permanent realm standard. So that basically had to happen as the servers went up, and that caused like a huge like bottleneck. And like some people, probably like 10 to 30,000 maybe, got in instantly, and then it was letting in like, I don't know, 100 or 10 people per minute. Very few. So like barely anyone got in. And then people started saying like, oh, there's some sort of streamer queue. And I was like, no, there isn't. And then somebody showed me a clip of a streamer logging out and back in. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then I tried it and I was like, uh-oh. And then I messaged them and I was like, hey, please remove me from this thing. But people were really unhappy, right? It kind of is similar to what I said before, where it creates this weird perception that like streamers are above other people and stuff. And I get it from the GGG point of view, right? Because you don't want to waste like hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship money for people just to stream the game for 2 hours. So like what I've talked about afterwards, I've always said like streamer queue can make sense for streamers that are like just gonna play a few hours and do the sponsorship and then leave. But especially for people like me and anyone that's gonna play long term, they should obviously never have streamer queue, right? So I'm against streamer queue for people like me, but for people that are sponsored and are only going to play a little bit and aren't really going to affect the grand economy or the rankings, I personally don't really care. I think that's better than people having to just stare at nothing. At least that gives people watching something to watch too. But I think probably GGD felt like that would make the long-term streamers mad at the sponsored streamers. But I still think that's preferable.
Here's a big thing though, and this is something that I think honestly is there's two sides to that coin that are very important. Allowing a streamer to have a streamer queue of any kind during a sponsored portion, especially in PoE 2's case, where people will need to pay for that product, that could be considered false advertising. because what they're doing is they're showing on stream, hey, look at me play this product. Double click, logged right in. Man, I'm playing and having a great time. This is a $30 game. Better go get it. And then all these people go and spend that money, and they're not able to play for the next 72 to 40, 120 hours.
I have not thought about the $30 entry
and that honestly,
don't agree with
there's
that,
an
man.
argument.
You plaster sponsor across everything. They know you're going to get
the
preferential
only
treatment,
way.
and I think
The only way. No,
given.
a streamer queue is a given. Here's the thing. That's why I would argue that
preferential
that's
treatment
completely
for
wrong.
paying you money. They want to show off their shit.
But they're showing something the person buying the product can't do, and then saying you can go buy this product to do that. And that's a problem, because a lot of people are going to go buy that product and be very confused. Now, here's the thing. In a perfect world, if every viewer understood the situation, if every viewer understood that they're watching somebody play and the queues are full and they can't, that's fine. But the problem is we don't live in that world. And there's no way that we'd be able to properly give that information to every viewer. So there's a real schism there that I think that, that honestly, like GGG needs to understand, like what they need to do is if they're going to do a sponsored push, they got to wait a few days until the servers are stable. They can't be doing it the first day.
I'm not going to assume that you've done a stream like this, but I know I have, where they give you a version of the game and the character that you're playing has a bunch of skills that you have to wait hours to get.
Sure.
Is that the same kind of false advertising? Because it's like, look, I'm going to jump right in. Look at all this shit I can do. And then people are going to like jump in and go like, I can't do that shit. I figured they would assume that since I'm being paid to promote this product, that I would have maybe, like, if available, some advantages, and one of those being better gear or faster login time.
I think that's kind of a slippery slope, because then you're just talking about like time played of the game, and so like if it's the kind of thing where they're just I think it's different being able to actually use the product you're buying as opposed to not being able to while watching someone using it and enjoying it. So I think if you're talking about like different states inside the game, that's one thing, but I'm more talking about the binary, you are able to play it or you are not able to play it after giving it money.
Yeah.
And honestly,
I get that too, but it's like
I'd say there's certain games that would apply.
It's like standing in line at a club and you see people going like, what the fuck is that? It's like, oh, they're friends with the owners. Like, oh, me personally be like, I get it. If they're friends with the owners, like if I was friends with the owners, I'd fucking go right in too.
One point that I would say that you are kind of on tune with here is sponsored promotions that then have like DLC or deluxe edition items that they then like request the person use, where it's like, okay, if someone goes and buys the game, they're not going to have those deluxe items they're seeing on the streamer. Like that kind of plays into it a little bit. But in that case, they could just spend more money to get it, which is still scummy as hell, but at least they could do it. They have a choice to. But like with the PoE2 stuff, like they would not have the choice. There would be no power of the consumer in that situation. They could only refund it. And I feel it's a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah. But I generally avoid what you're talking about as well. Like whenever someone's like, hey, can you use this? I'm like, no, ideally not.
Yeah, you just want to start from the beginning. I think it depends on the game in a lot of ways too.
Exactly. That's for me. It depends on the game.
Yeah, there's nuance all across the board.
I mean, sometimes those items ruin the progression and they ruin the fun.
Yeah.
So it's like
progression's the most fun part of gaming.
Yeah, sure. Especially in a game like this, right? Especially in a game like this. I will say, regardless on what side of that argument you fall, the entire process of that streamer queue situation, I'm still dealing with is a strong word, but I'm still seeing the effects of that today when I go on Reddit or when I open up anything and everyone's like, oh, they got streamer blah, right? Like it just creates the idea that there is this like secret thing, this agenda that everyone is against the common person. And I hate
have
that.
To defend yourself against that shit anyway.
Yeah. But this just emboldens it, man. It emboldens the streamer
I will say,
client, streamer loot, all that shit.
Just for the record, somebody said, isn't what Co's saying the exact same as people playing games or doing sponsor streams before release dates? The very important difference there, I would say, is A, we always talk about the release dates. It's part of it. And B, if you went to buy the product, you would see that it's not available to play.
Yeah.
So that, and then you would factor that into your purchase decision. Very different.
All different, very different. Nuanced situations.
There's a lot, there's a lot of nuanced situations.
It's an interesting discussion.
Sure. Yeah.
What you're saying though, like, so for a very long time in Path of Exile, people would say like, oh, that guy has streamer RNG, right? And
Yeah, streamer
people would,
client.
like basically
Streamer
treat
client,
that person like a flat earther, right? Like they're just be like, "Oh, you're crazy." Like you're crazy. Whereas after streamer Q,
Now it's a
people
real
are
thing,
like-
dude. Now there's
now people are like,
credits there, yeah.
"Well, if they
You have
did
those.
that,
You have those same people. That never happened. No streaming. No, that never happened.
They have
That's-
video of the
you're
ship
making that
like
up.
falling off the end of the earth. They're like, dude.
I can just imagine. It's like,
Yeah.
no, the streamer queue definitely happened. Here's the PoE guys addressing it. No, it's all fabricated, man. That's deep fake.
Yeah,
It's all
so
deep fake. Deep
it
fake.
is
Never
really
actually happened.
interesting. And I actually like several
Deepfake.
times I've had like discussions with people. And I've actually convinced a few people like that it doesn't exist. My favorite was like I was like, well, I said if streamer RNG was the thing, then there would be at least one good player calling it out. Right? And he was like, but I am. And I'm like, well, like one and then he was like, okay, give me a list of good players that aren't streamers then. And I made like a list of like 50 or 60, right? Of the best people like Embu, Dan, and stuff like that, right? And he was like, you know what? That's actually a really good point. And he was like, you know what? You're right. That's pretty rare for people to do that. So
Yeah. And you're right, actually. A lot of times the first people to call out crazy things happening within the game are like the best players. Like they'll even like call the other members of that best player group out if there's something that's
and
fucked
like
up.
Steel didn't stream for like 8 years of playing the game, right? So you would have noticed like a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, question for you, Ziz. I saw this pop up a lot on Twitter and different parts of the Reddit. Are you starting softcore or hardcore?
So for the longest time, I've been like, there's a 0% chance I'm starting softcore, or I mean, starting hardcore. No chance at all. And then Steel Mage was like, "Oh, are you a bitch?" And then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna play hardcore." And then
All it took was
And-
one call out,
That's-
and you're just like,
that's a good-
okay, you're right. I don't want to
No,
play.
I mean,
it's from my best friend, so it hits different. But then
and he's got a
Ben-
point. I mean, that's a very good point.
It's a good point. But then Ben was like, yeah, I'm not dying to like server disconnects 4 times on day one.
True.
And then I died to a server disconnect in WoW, and I'm like, yeah, I can't handle that. So I am
Ooh.
starting
that was
software.
your omen. That was your omen. That was your gimme.
Yeah.
The universe
So
was letting
I'm
you know.
starting softcore, and as soon as it
Nice.
seems stable and if it seems balanced enough, I will go hardcore.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Which is interesting because I've never played softcore in PoE 1.
At all, ever? Oh, you've
Just for,
always
like,
you've always
events that
been
only
hardcore and
exist in-
SSF and not SSF. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Like, I play BPL and stuff on softcore, but like there's no hardcore version of that.
Right. And then I guess the second question, I get asked this, I don't know, probably 20 times a day, and I'm not playing in the Path of Exile director at all, so I can only imagine for you it's hundreds of times a day. What are you starting? Do you have any idea what like class you're gonna go first? Are you drawn to another one?
So,
Like,
so I've thought about it a lot, and the first thing I really wanted to play was like the demon girl shapeshifter thing. Looked really cool.
Yeah.
But that also looks very softcore, and my intention is to swap to hardcore very early. So I think I'm going to basically play the exact same thing on softcore and then remake that on hardcore, because then I'll know exactly like how tanky it is and stuff. It'll give me a big advantage.
yeah.
So I am most likely going to. I'm leaning towards like a totem warrior right now. The only thing that's a little bit off-putting to me about that is that the totem doesn't scale with your weapon. Like it scales with
Off
the
the
gem.
gem. Yeah.
So that's a little off-putting to me. But that's what I'm leaning towards right now.
Okay. How many times is that going to change between now and Friday, you think?
I don't
Let's
know.
ask him after the interview tomorrow.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think there's a. I'm assuming that most things will be a similar power level, so I don't think there's a huge. Like either way, that sounds like something that's going to be tanky because we don't have life nodes on the tree anymore, and strength is one of the big ways to get health. So I'm leaning towards something like melee and tanky anyway, and I think recovery is going to be like such a huge survival element in PoE. So I'm pretty locked in on being some form of melee warrior, or not even necessarily melee, but like some sort of like strength stacking warrior tank.
Got it. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Ziz, what goes into your like decision-making process as far as, is it just putting up numbers and the best build, or is it like, does fun come into play later on, or does it come into play like right away? Like, because I know you've done all the builds. You know, you explore everything you can. But like when it comes to like first builds, is fun even a factor?
So I would say winning is fun. So I'm
fair.
usually
No, that's fair.
competing.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like competing. So that would normally be how I approach it. And in hardcore, you're shoeboxed into things a lot more. So I would say softcore is infinitely better for content creation. Like I just like if I was not a streamer, I would only play hardcore. There's definitely a big part of me that's considering transitioning to software full time. I think it's infinitely better for content creation because, like,
really, you don't think people find more enjoyment like watching for that big death and all the clips that go around from it and stuff like that?
I don't think that makes up for the amount of content I can't make.
Interesting.
Like,
so yeah, you're talking from
like
a content creation aspect rather than a viewer aspect.
Yeah.
I was thinking the numbers. Like does that factor into your?
I think I get way more numbers if I was a software streamer with how I make content. Way more. Infinitely more.
Interesting.
Like looking at the type of content Empyrean can make, the type of content Metal can make that I just can't do. Like I play hardcore. I've played hardcore since accidentally Diablo 1 because I played online and my internet connection was so unstable, so I would disconnect and lose all my gear a lot. So like I prefer hardcore. But I probably like I will probably play hardcore in PoE2 mostly too, but there's a lot of arguments and like Viral, my like content manager, is like, you really should just swap to software. And I'm like,
yeah, I get that. I never thought about the reason. Like the very Mathel's allure is that he can play so much different builds and do different things because the threat of dying is not one.
And death sets you back so much. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? You get that spike in viewership when you're alive. And people will tune in and they'll watch your death. You might get an extra 100,000 people watching your death, right? And that's great. But then when you're re-leveling, you might tank 80% of the viewership while you're re-leveling.
Sure. Yeah. Because people always want to see the new, and if you're dead, it's going to be a while. So I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard choices, but I mean that means that like, there's not necessarily a wrong choice.
Sure. Yeah. What are some of the things in PoE2 that you're most like, I guess, on the fence about that we know that they've shown? What are things where you're just like, I don't fucking like that, or I don't know how that's gonna go. We're gonna have to check out and see like where are your curiosities? Where do they lie?
So again, I am very open to everything. Right? It's a new game. I'm gonna go in with the mind frame that it is a new game, and I'm not going in with like, this isn't PoE1, it sucks, right? Because then I think I would have a bad time. So I'm going in with a very open mind. That being said, there are things that I'm like, oh, this looks fucking awful.
Please,
like
expand.
for example, the fact that you have to click on the well to refill potions, I'm like, is there a need? That is just, it seems very like, why? It's like, how does this benefit me?
Okay.
Not being able to respec ascendancy, I'm like, bro, we already have a permanent choice with our class. Do we really need a subclass being a permanent choice as well? In a game where people already are super against the fact that we don't have alternative leveling. And obviously they've said that they are hopefully and have fixed this problem with PoE2 being a lot more of an exciting campaign. But is it realistically going to be exciting enough after we do have 1,000 or 5,000 hours in PoE2, right? I'm not convinced that it is. So a permanent choice there. And I'm especially against that in early access because this is when people want to try out the most amount of different stuff. And a lot of people don't like starting over. For a lot of people, it's already a big deal that the game basically starts over every 3 months or whatever anyway, right? So those are definitely the main things I'm a little bit worried about. Another thing, I wouldn't say I'm against this. I'm really, really curious about this, is the fact that you can only have one support gem per character. Like I can only use LMP on one gem. I'm really curious. It might be awesome because things like that are like, they are there for a reason, right? Like for example, when they had Soulbound in Sanctum, it was there so that they could add that much more power to it, right? It's not just a downside. And I'm assuming it's the same with gems, right? Like if we could have 10 life taps or 10 multi-proj, then they would have to remove power because of it. So maybe this is like cool enough that yeah, you can only have one unleash, but it's so much stronger because of it. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if that will get changed over time with the only being able to use one support gem, because it could. I think from like GGG side, it'll force people to be creative and like actually utilize and play with all the other tools in the toolbox, but it also could just suck. Like it could just not be fun. And
That's
you
an option.
Yeah, you want to utilize all that other
so
stuff.
and I mean that's the beautiful thing about the early access, right? They can change a lot of things.
Yeah.
Very true.
The flip side,
And they'll be getting lots and lots of feedback.
oh yeah, they definitely will.
Oh yes.
They definitely will. What about the flip sides? Is like, what are you stupidly excited for? What are some of your most exciting things you're looking forward to?
It still seems surreal that we're gonna have 36 ascendancies. That like
At the end of the day,
that's so crazy to me. It's like
That's
we're
a
gonna
lot
have
of
12
balance.
classes. All of those classes are gonna have 3 ascendancies. How are they gonna balance this? Like that's so crazy.
And constantly be updating and constantly be adding on to via leagues, and every one of them will have to be touched. So it's like wow.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And GGG have done a really good job of making most things viable. Like obviously, like some things are going to be a lot more viable. But like on softcore especially, right? There's very few things you can't do all the content with. So I think that's very exciting. And there's just so much. There was more content than I was expecting in the early access. I love that there's an Uber. I love the rune stuff. Looks so exciting to me because like runes and rune words were some of my favorite things in D2. So and they seem to have expanded on the Val Orb in a way that is even more like the way the Project Diablo 2 mod and Path of Diablo is. So I think that's so cool. I'm very excited. I personally hope the uniques are at the point like they are in PD2, which I recently played. It's like a mod for Diablo 2, and it's so fun. But there I had a rule like the item doesn't exist until I val it. And that is like so fun. And oh, actually, and I think I love the most, which makes this more possible, is the fact that there are no sockets on items anymore. So if you find an upgrade, you can put it in.
You don't have to wait.
A quick side bit on that, and this is something I'm going to bring up in the interview tomorrow, is this is why they're doing sockets away from gear, right? Like if you find an item, you can put it on. But the new runes, they also kind of make that harder again, right? Because you can't take a rune back out. So I want to have a little bit of a discussion, a little bit of pushback on that. Like, doesn't that sort of invalidate the easy change? If you like, yeah, I can wear this, but I have to find the runes for the sockets, unless they're super plentiful.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit worried about that. Like there is a case where runes aren't an issue for switching gear. But they could be an issue. So I want to hear Jonathan talk about that because I love the idea of you finding an upgrade and you're just slapping it on. Don't have to worry about it.
You don't have to port, go change the socket colors on it, make sure that it's 6 link, like all that. You just right click and go.
Yeah.
That would also like encourage testing so much. Like that would
exactly
that is a fundamental change in how GGG wants players to approach exploring the different options. So especially again, going back to the new player stuff, being able to just like flip this in, use it for 5 packs. No, it's cool. Go back. Didn't lose anything. Didn't lose any time. Like that's going to be huge. That's one of the reasons, like all this stuff that Ziz is referring to. This is one of the reasons I'm very excited to go in without any knowledge and no build guide. I think there's going to be enough mechanics to where it's going to be a really good time. I'm not going in with that same fear that I have at PoE where it's like, oh, if I go down this branch, it's going to brick this character. Like I don't feel like that nearly as much. Knowing how easy it is to respec, knowing about the stuff that Ziz just talked about, being able to test and try that stuff without having to spend resources. That's big. That's a big change for this game.
I really hope that they've really managed that part because in PoE 1, Like there's so many big traps for players. Like like a quick example, right? The amount of times I've like helped somebody with their build and they'd be doing like, let's say ethereal knives or something, right? It's a physical based spell. And they would have a wand with like 30 to 50 flat physical damage, right? And 110% increased physical damage. And to anyone that hasn't played the game, they would be like, yeah, that seems like a great weapon for a physical based spell. But none of the stats on that weapon actually affects it because those are all if you're attacking with the weapon. But that's very unclear in the game.
Yeah.
So hopefully they've really, really nailed that and made it very easy to tell. Like I feel ARPGs are probably the single worst game at this, where it's really hard to tell, like, how do I scale this? Like, how do I improve what I'm playing right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so much of it is just good. I depend on the community to like help shape all of that stuff. And I'm sure like Jonathan said that as much, right? Like they're waiting for the community to go in there and break stuff. That's the whole point of this being in early access. I got to think from a like developer point of view, for them to go back and start PoE 2 and in a lot of ways like simplify things. And you can kind of see it through what they've shown at Exile Con, to even now where they've just taken away complete systems, no more sockets on gear. And now it's like, well, we actually will have sockets on gear, but it's not going to be these. Like, I wonder at what point they're just like, fuck, this is too complicated. We can't, like, we got to the most complicated stuff in PoE 1 and we saw people be like, I'm going to wait for PoE 2. And now they're already starting to like take systems away, but also add others. Like, I wonder how much give and take there is when it comes to the development of that stuff. It's got to be super interesting.
Well, dude, I mean, when you think about their approach to QOL in PoE, I can only imagine what the last 3+ years of debates have been like behind closed doors. Like it, I mean, because a lot, the answer to your question, like what happens when it gets too complex? Well, you make a new game, and that's what they did.
Yeah,
they like a lot, you know, like a lot of times they say like MMOs get to the point where the damage numbers are so ridiculous they just have to reset.
Stat squish.
That's PoE 2. Like that's essentially in a lot of ways what they're doing. They're bringing it back to the core basics and then growing it back out again in complexity. We all know PoE 2 in 10 years is going to be probably worse than PoE 1 is now in terms of how deep and complex it is. So they needed a reboot. And honestly, watch, we're going to see 5-6 years. PoE 2 gets that same way and it's like, oh, cool. Now we're talking about PoE 3. It's just going to like, we're going to see these like resets come and it's just going to keep going. But yeah, I think PoE 2 is a big answer to that question.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I've heard so many people have said that as well. Like I have viewers that have watched me for like 6-7 years and they haven't played PoE yet. Which is kind of crazy to me, but it's fun. And a lot of that is like you said, they're waiting for, so many people are waiting for PoE 2 to get in on the ground floor.
Yes.
Right? They're like, oh, I missed the boat on PoE 1. It's too complicated. Zizrin is posting 6-hour-long guides. Let's just wait.
Yeah, that's true. Are you gonna, I guess as a content creator, what is the first thing you're going to focus on when it comes to content creation? And like, how are you going to balance that as a super fan at the same time when you're like, I actually need to do my job?
That's a great question.
Or on a flip side, are you just saying, screw it, this is for me?
Yeah, like where is your mind for all that?
That's a great question. The thing is, I kind of like enjoy playing content the way I stream anyway, right? Like I very early made the choice that I didn't really want to have a different personality on my on-stream persona than myself because of the amount of hours I stream. And I really thought about having like a character because I'd seen other people doing that. And I think that makes like any negative criticism a lot easier to handle. But I was like, but also I want to stream for like 20, 30 hours. And keeping up a character for that long.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me that you didn't go blue hair to copy Ninja? That was all you?
First.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure if we check the timeline, if we go check the videos, I'm pretty sure that this had it first.
So I will actually be running a subathon at the launch with my wife. I usually don't do these, but I've done one before. 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But so many people have actually been asking, like, are you going to do something with your wife again? And we are. So that's pretty exciting. And then I am basically hoping to rush down the Uber, the new boss.
Okay.
Don't know if I'll do that in softcore, but Steelmage as well was saying, like, most likely the first person that kills it in hardcore is going to kill it in softcore first. Because we don't have practice characters, right? And it looks like boss fights are so hard now that we might be just going, first person that goes in on hardcore, if they haven't practiced on softcore, there's a big chance they go in and they're just like, dead. So I'll probably see after 3 to 5 days how far I am, how things are progressing with if anyone is playing hardcore at the start. But I'll be making videos and stuff while I'm live.
Yeah, just recording it while you're in the process. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, for the people that don't want to do this without the helping hand, what do you suggest? Wait a day? Wait till later the first day?
You don't really need to wait at all, because somebody that is a content creator is likely going to be ahead of you anyway. So you can literally watch them live, or like most people are multi-streaming on YouTube now.
Sure.
Going through the VOD is so easy on YouTube. If anything, put on a 1 hour delay on yourself, and then you're seeing like where to put points, like where to do everything. If you do want the hand holding, right?
Yeah.
Like, and streamers will be playing a lot of different builds anyway.
Sure. Okay. And then I guess the other question, like, it definitely has already happened with PoE 1 when you see, you know, how do I classify it? You have like the content creator YouTube video of like, hey, here's my build guide. And then you have the like, what is the big build guide website that starts with an M, where a lot of content creators.
Maxroll.
Yeah, like Maxroll. Like, where do you see that going? Do you think more and more content creators are going to partner up with that site? Do you think they're going to stay their own thing? Do you see any like pushback from viewers when it's like, I don't want to go to Maxroll, I just want to go to your YouTube? Like, how is that shaping up?
So that's a great question. I haven't really talked about this publicly. I am part of Maxroll.
Yeah.
And this isn't really publicly announced yet, but I'm now the branch leader of Path of Exile.
Okay. Congrats.
So that's me. Thank you.
Yeah, big congrats. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah. So that's me and Crouching Tuna. So me and Tuna are doing that. And then one of the main things that I didn't like when I joined Maxroll was that there would be unoptimal guides and stuff on the website. So one of the things that I wanted to change.
Did you say unoptimum? What was that?
Unoptimal. Yeah, like just not perfect.
Gotcha.
And guides don't have to be perfect, by the way. They just have to be framed perfectly. Like, there are several of my guides that are unoptimal, right? And I've told this to Ko as well. Like, sometimes when giving Ko a guide, I'll be like, this guide is better, but this guide is better for a new player, right? Because telling a new player, hey, you need to weapon swap every 6 seconds. Like,
they're gonna be like, cool, what's weapon swapping?
Yeah, why the fuck do I want to do that to my hands? Like,
why would I ever want to do that?
So one of the things I've started to wanting to change was to make sure that like every single thing, like instead of saying like, well, there's some unoptimal guides and some optimal guides on Maxroll, I want to get to the point where like everything that's there, you're gonna have a good experience with. So we've been bringing on like more players, right? That I'm very confident in as well. So like we have Garatha joining, we have Havoc joining, we have kind of throwing him under the bus here, but SteelMage is joining. We're gonna have SteelMage doing some
all the announcements.
Yeah, we're gonna have SteelMage doing like some sort of like content review where he will like help other creators and look over guides a little bit.
Nice.
To like really like keep this to a whole new standard as well. And so like especially Garatha as well, in my opinion, is like literally one of the best guide creators.
Yeah, he's great.
So
I've used his stuff before.
Yeah, and he does really unique stuff too. So I think like getting some of those like really, really good players on and everyone helping each other, I think will really take that to the next level. And the main reason I wanted to join personally is I've always wanted to do written content. And I actually hired a guy called Enki to make written content for me.
Nice.
For the Path of Exile forum, but that didn't work because I couldn't monetize it at all. So I was just bleeding money for no return. Whereas through Maxroll, we can monetize through the ad revenue, right?
Sure.
So it actually makes sense. So yeah, that's like for me at least. So I think things like that will be a really big part of it. And I think there's still like a lot of room for just like I'm still going to be doing my normal YouTube stuff too, because people want different things, right? Some people want written guides, some people want a video guide, some people want long in-depth stuff, and some people want just like, here's the skill tree. That's all you need, right? Because Path of Exile is a very unique game where there are literally, and I'm not joking for people that aren't familiar with Path of Exile, there are people with over 3,000 and 5,000 hours in the game that feel like a new player. I'm not joking.
Yeah, that would probably be me.
I consider myself a PoE noob. I'm not very versed. If I look at Path of Exile right now, my played time is 911 hours, and I would say that I'm a relatively new player at the end of the day.
Yeah. I have 25, maybe 26,000, and I definitely do consider anyone under 3K. There are exceptions, but I do consider most people under 3K a very new player. There are exceptions, like itmeXile, when he started, he would have very like, I'm going to learn and master this game approach, and he became one of the best players in less than 3,000.
Yeah, it
You have to have,
depends
like-
on the personality.
It's such an astronomical amount of time. I love how you're like,
Sure.
in less than 3,000 hours. Dude, that's like years.
It's a big game.
Like, it's like he became an ancient master after only training for 55 years.
Yeah.
One thing also I will say, I'm going to make this comment only because I've said the exact same thing, but I love so much as a streamer that this was like, so I've always wanted to write guides, so I hired a guy to do it for me. And I've done the exact same thing.
Bro,
It's a very streamer-minded
thought about
thing. Yeah.
well,
I
be-
do the
to be
same
fair,
thing. I hired a whole team,
like-
to be fair. So
it helps a lot. Well, we ghostwrite them, so I'm in Discord with them. But yeah, it's a little bit easy to get out of touch as a streamer. I'll never forget my first podcast ever was with a guy called Ziggy D.
Yeah.
And
who is in chat right now? Hi, Ziggy.
oh, awesome. And this is the time where I was streaming roughly 450 hours per month at this time. And on his podcast, I say the line, casual players that only play 8 to 9 hours a day. And Ziggy was just like, he was like, what did he just say? And I didn't even think about it. Because at the time, I was doing 30-hour sessions. So I was like, yeah, 8 to 9 hours. That's pretty casual. That was very out of touch. But yeah, we've grown since then.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there. We've all been there in our different ways. Maybe not that way, but in our different ways.
It happens. It happens without question. Well, cool. I know you got a ton of PoE2 stuff. I know you've got that interview with Jonathan.
Oh,
I told you before.
I've seen multiple questions. When is the interview tomorrow?
Yeah.
8 p.m. GMT, so that's 40 minutes from now tomorrow.
So,
So
3 p.m.
3
Eastern.
p.m. ET tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And it'll be on your Twitch channel live. Is that okay?
Yeah, add on YouTube. I multi-stream now.
And then I'm sure VOD on YouTube and everything like that.
I've removed the VOD on YouTube now.
You don't have. So wait.
Really?
Wait.
Yeah,
you mean VOD
I'm-
of the live stream?
Yeah.
So then you
I'm
post
not
the
sure how
VOD
to
of the
feel about
video,
it.
right?
Okay, the reason I removed it, at least temporarily, I don't know what to do. It's actually, it does cost me a lot of ad revenue. Because it is a significant amount of ad revenue leaving it up.
Do you
Wow.
not turn ads on them?
No. I have the ads on them. The problem is I'm now hiding them because I looked at my own channel on my phone and I was horrified because I could not see my own videos that I was
Because the
posting.
live videos were
All
everywhere.
I saw was Scissorin Live, Scissorin Live, Scissorin Live. And I was like, well, this is awful.
Yeah.
You
I
can
get
hide
that.
that.
So,
You
can also, yeah,
can have it. You can have it so they don't send those out. We
It
don't do
doesn't
that.
push to sub boxes. Yeah, you can hide that on each individual video.
right.
And
I
also,
might
you can
need-
monetize them. There's no question after my testing. There's no question that monetized YouTube VODs make way more than Twitch VODs, like per.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Way
like
more.
0 cents to
Significantly.
actual money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
if
might
it's the
need
kind
a
of thing
quick
where
tutorial- I might need a quick tutorial on how to keep the VOD up, but not spam people because it was so bad.
Yeah, Maximilian dude went on Twitter about it recently, so that's where
we can take this offline and do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, because I saw that tweet and I couldn't really figure it out except by doing what I did. So
Anyways, I told you before the show that I was going to have a question from us added to your interview question list. However,
All right.
Zeke is going to be the one to do it. Me and Co will not
Okay.
be adding a question. So
I like this.
please, Zeke, what should we ask Jonathan, the game director on Path of Exile 2?
I mean, you put me on the spot here, dude. Like,
100%.
you could have like prefaced it before the show started and said like, get my creative juices flowing for a good question.
No, we're not professional here.
Zeke, I think the less you think about it, the better, to be blunt.
Yeah.
Why was it a conscious choice to make the game more difficult than PoE 1?
Holy shit, a real question. Zeke, you were supposed to say, how can I play this by smacking my penis on the controller?
That's true.
That's a really good one.
And will you have a control scheme for that?
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
There you go. Ziz is adding it into the list. Fantastic.
That's a damn good question. That's like
A really
an
good
actual
one.
legit great question. Yeah.
I was fully expecting to be something that I could answer.
Okay, can I go back to doing what I do now?
Oh man, I love on the spot stuff. Fantastic. The other thing, just complete topic swap. You've been playing some hardcore WoW. We all talked about, or I guess we all saw your death. We haven't done a show since the passing of Zizzer and the Mage. But yeah, DC death. How was that?
Yeah, I really thought that we would avoid that by playing in a duo. So obviously, me and Steel were playing together, and we actually have the same ISP, but we do live like a little bit apart. So yeah, I was hoping there would be no DC death, and we pulled like 13, 14 Murlocs, and then suddenly we're just running and nothing's happening, and I'm like, oh okay, excellent. So we died like level 37, 36, something like that.
Oh, I thought you were hired. I thought that was like in the 40s, but no. Okay.
No. And we were having a blast. Like we were doing like 28-hour sessions, and
Wow.
so much fun. And huge shout out to Soda, who's probably
it's crazy.
one of the few, if not the only person that can pull this off.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun. And I really enjoyed it. I hope he makes it a regular thing. I will always play if I have time and there's no crazy PoE launch happening.
I hope to jump in 3.0.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's wild how I don't obviously like collaborations are the lifeblood of 2024 Twitch, but like I have not seen a collaborative effort on on the platform that is this scope and has this many different people from such different backgrounds all playing the same thing. And of course it's got to be World of Warcraft, which there's like a beauty in that as well, but also from just the beginnings of live streaming, there's also a beauty in that. But it's so good. It's such a fascinating collaborative thing to just take part of. And I hope they continue to build on it. I hope it becomes like an annual event or a biannual event.
Yeah, I mean, it was super fun for us. The reason we went so high was streamer ego, because Soda made a list of who are the sweats and who are the non-sweats.
Yeah,
we got put on the non-sweat list, and we definitely took that personally.
Oh, I 100% knew you would.
Oh God, Ziz, I'm sorry. Are you okay?
No, I even asked during the meeting. I was like, I've been awake for like 28 hours. Can I be moved to the sweat list? And they just laughed at me. I'm like, all right, running another 28-hour session.
And that's my favorite part about it is Soda is in this position where, you know, he has command over like 500 plus people, all of varying sizes and egos and all that shit. And he doesn't give a fuck. Like he's the only person that could do that, I think, on this entire platform and not have, you know, the ego that I think could very easily be obtained, or the pompousness of being like, oh no, you're so-and-so. That's completely fine.
You're thinking about this wrong. It's not that his ego is so far beyond.
You think it's an ego beyond everyone else?
He is on a level that is unattainable by others, and therefore, anytime there is a challenge, it's just an overwhelming defeat. Like there's no other, which I think is how he's handling it so well.
It could be.
Soda was actually one of the reasons I started streaming, and I used to have this like recurring sub message when I resubbed to him about me being a marble, and he would just he would read the message and then just be like, "This guy's so fucking stupid."
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said when there's like drama around this, because of course there's going to be drama around a World of Warcraft guild. When there's like drama between two massive, really pillars of Twitch, And one of them is just like, dude, you're being a fucking bitch. Like, that is a literal lie to the other one. And he's just like, I'm fucking done with this conversation. I'm going to move on with my day. Like, it's crazy to me that that's the same kid that I saw on X-Fire, 15 years ago saying the most heinous shit I've ever fucking heard. And now he's just like, nah, I don't have time for this fucking shit. So,
yeah. I really hope he keeps doing it.
Yeah.
I really liked the whole like Harry Potter theme to this too, with making it into basically different houses.
Okay, that's like the PG version. This is like straight up race wars, like this.
Yes, but I'm on somebody else's podcast, so I'm like, can I say that I really enjoyed the racism? Like,
yeah,
it was really fun.
Dude, it's hilarious. Like Imaru, who's like the most wholesome streamer of all time. She's like, all right, here are some new racist terms that you can use for all of the races in WoW on our daily news feed for OnlyFans, and then just start saying racist terms.
I think Ziz may have just said his most heinous quote, out of quote context ever on this show in the last 20 seconds. I love it.
I've really stopped caring about that because with AI now, anyone can make me say anything. So I'm like, I don't. That's actually said something worse.
And it doesn't exactly hurt that you have a very unique voice. So that just makes it easier. The more unique your voice sounds, the easier AI has with it. So
so for those that are new and aren't familiar with me, the reason I sound like this is just because I'm sick. I actually have a very deep and pleasant voice normally.
He sounds like Pirate software. He used the same software that Pirate actually uses to
that's true.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Well, I think that's good. I think we'll let you go on your way. What's on the docket before Friday? How much, like, what do you, besides the Jonathan interview, what's your day-to-day like till Friday?
Definitely some stalling and farming viewers, like just looking at stuff.
Yeah.
And getting, I'm also gonna like figure out subathon goals and stuff. One of them's gonna be a tattoo. That's
one of the goals is going to be a tattoo.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a Ziz tattoo or a PoE tattoo?
Either Gauntlet or the PoE logo. I mean, I feel like at this point, PoE has like completely changed me and my family's life. So
sure.
But I'll be doing a lot of calls and talks with other streamers, like mini podcasts and stuff. I like talking to people. So
yeah,
me and Ziggy is going to do talk. Me and Woody, the other people as well.
Cool.
I think you should get log in and have your nipple be the O.
Definitely not that. Definitely not that.
All right.
Oh, come on.
Zeke, you get a
Great
question
suggestion.
in the interview. No more tattoos. Like, get Zeke.
I'm doing my job, JP.
You're supposed
JP,
to
I'm
keep him in
doing
his box, guy. Where's your fucking
the job
handler?
that you've had me on this show for
Where's the
years. I'm
fucking
doing my
handler?
job.
You think this man can afford a handler? What are you drinking?
No, it's our handler that we bought to handle him. He doesn't have his own handler.
Oh,
anyways,
I didn't know we had a handler.
Oh, we've got a handler. I send you the invoice. You just sign things. You don't even look anymore. That's where you're at. Go.
You're a cheap date.
Ziz, do some shout outs. Where can people check you out?
Yeah, I'm Scissorin on everything. I will be streaming loads of PoE 2. It'll be my life for the next foreseeable future. And I love that description. That's funny. But yeah, thanks so much for having me, and excited to explore the game with you all on launch. And I'm going in blind as well. It's great.
Fantastic.
Love it.